It's like playing an instrument. Like you suggest not buying a really expensive instrument to start because it's better to learn how to make a bad instrument sound good than to already get something that makes you sound better than you are. So maybe that applies to information security too.
Hey everybody, welcome to another Founder Q&A video. This time we're going to talk about SOC 2, and I brought Jonni Lundy, who is our founding operations manager, and he handles everything around information security over here. So super excited to talk to you, Jonni, and dive into the world of SOC 2. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's a fun topic, at least for me. I don't know if everyone is super intrigued with information security, but the journey is always interesting. So I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, we're gonna go over all of our timeline from thinking about getting SOC 2 to getting SOC 2 Type 2, which is the certification we got. And this will be helpful if you're going through that process yourself right now, or if you're thinking about getting that at some point and you want a more technical understanding of that or a technical angle to this problem. So yeah, let's do this. So the first question, Jonni, to you. I know this is not your first rodeo. You've been for SOC 2 before, so tell us, how was your first experience going through that process?
Yeah, it was just under 2 years since I graduated from college and was starting my first job, and I was a developer advocate or something. I can't even remember my title at the time, and I got pulled into a meeting room where there's execs in the company and people way above my pay grade, and they just started talking about we're gonna get these certifications and go here and find these policies and write this and da da da, just started going so deep, and I had no idea what was going on. And I remember just needing to learn so much really quickly and iterate very quickly. So I'd write policies and then find out oh, actually these two policies are better combined over here, or no, this actually needs to be talked about from this other angle, or oh, we're this kind of business, so it actually doesn't apply to us, or it does. And just so many edge cases, I felt and but we kept pushing through, and I don't remember the exact timeline, but we did SOC 2 first. Since it was our first time, we did SOC 2 Type 1, and then we did SOC 2 Type 2, and then we did ISO 27001, and we ended up doing HIPAA, and I think by the time I left, we started doing FedRAMP. And at that time, it was just very manual. We had these spreadsheets and trackers to try to manage everything. If anyone listening has done SOC 2 manually before, you'll know there's just a ton of small details you need to keep track of at all times. And trying to keep track of that, in spreadsheets and Jira and that kind of thing was a bit of a nightmare. But we found a way and we got through. And then leading up to the audit, it was staying in a meeting room for a week, just getting grilled by the auditor and screen sharing and, silently pinging each other oh, can we put this page live in 30 seconds so that I can show the auditors, just crazy stuff. But so much learning. It's always helpful to learn by really getting your hands dirty, and that's what that experience was. As hard as it was, taught me a lot about the actual reasons behind the audits and what they try to achieve. So it's a great experience.
It's something beautiful about doing something the hard way, because then when you do it in the easy way, I don't know if I can say that it was the easy way for us, but a lot has changed in the compliance world since that time we did SOC 2 for the first time. But yeah, you get to really appreciate and understand the mechanics of and the foundation of that thing, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
it's like playing an instrument. You suggest not buying a really expensive instrument to start, because it's better to learn how to make a bad instrument sound good than to already get something that makes you sound better than you are. Um, so maybe that
So
applies
true.
to information security too. Um, Zeno, why did we decide to do SOC 2 so early in Resend's journey?
Yeah, I remember we incorporated in January 2023. We went through this crazy startup accelerator program called Y Combinator. And right after we finalized the fundraising in April, we were like, let's start talking about SOC 2. And it was definitely extremely early in our journey as a company. We were still a team of three people total, you, me, and Boo. And we had like a maybe 50 paying customers, which is a very small number. None of those customers were asking for SOC 2 necessarily. It's not like we are not closing deals because we didn't have SOC 2. So there was really no need. And I think we even second guess ourselves. We're like, is this the right move? Is this the right investment of time? Um, but we knew that with SOC 2, it was not about what is our need today, but what is our need a year from now. And we had a lot of conviction that this would take off. We had a lot of conviction in the product and what we were building, in the team that we had to build all of that. So we decided to kick off that journey because we knew that even though we might not have these requests today, we'll get them a year later. And turns out that that decision paid off. And now that we have, more than 1,500 paying customers, we just crossed 100,000 users total in the platform. Uh, that's the right time to do it. So yeah, I'm actually glad that we did that so early. Now, there's many ways to go about doing SOC 2, right, Jonni? There are different types. So I'm curious, why did we choose going to type 2 and not type 1? Can you talk about the difference between those two?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, there's a lot of ways to start in general, even. Like you don't even need to have a certification to have an information security um, part of the business. At early stages, it probably won't even be a whole team. It'll just be a function that's played by multiple people. Um, but the certifications are really helpful to kind of give you a direction of what to implement and how to implement it. Um, and I think the two most common ones for especially earlier stage SaaS businesses are SOC 2 and ISO 27001. SOC 2 tends to be a little bit more practical in terms of like set up this type of encryption and do, have these measures in place for code reviews and releases to production, and like it's a bit more kind of practical in its implementation, and it's used a little bit more heavily in the U.S. So that's something you have to gauge of like where are your customers coming from and what's meaningful to them. ISO 27001 is a little bit more of a global standard, and it deals with kind of the organization as a whole, like including like management and distribution of roles, and it just kind of comes at the risk from a different angle. So we chose SOC 2 because as a US business, we have a lot of our customers are also in the US, so that's kind of what they're looking for in terms of attesting to security. And then once you decide on SOC 2, you have these two options of type 1 and type 2. So type 1 is like this snapshot in time where you're asked to provide evidence of something happening, and you can do it at that very moment. You don't even have to ever have done it before. or
Hmm.
have plans to ever do it again. And just the fact that you can produce the evidence to prove that it happens at that minute and that time is enough for the audit. So it's helpful because it pushes you through the process of understanding, can I even accomplish this? Like, can I change um, my encryption level to the mandatory type, right? Uh, or is that not even possible for me? The one that really matters, though, is type 2. And it matters because it's done over a period of time. So if you look at any SOC 2 Type 2 report, you'll see these two dates, the start and the end. And that's representing this is the period that the auditors looked for evidence around. So for us, I believe it's uh, August
August.
to February, if I remember
Yep.
right.
Hmm.
And so all that means is that from August to February, the auditors were observing our practices, observing what we do, observing our operations, and looking to make sure we followed all the parts of SOC 2 during that period. And that just is a lot more meaningful than just being able to say, oh, yeah, I can come up with some evidence at one point in time. Um, type 1 is usually used as a stepping stone to type 2. If you don't have any experience implementing SOC 2 and no one on your team has, I would highly suggest starting with SOC 2 type 1, because that just helps to get the ball rolling. It helps to understand what's going to be coming when the pressure's really on. When you put all this money into implementing, the auditors are there, they're watching, and you want to be able to execute well. So doing that kind of prep is really helpful. For us, since we have already gone through it before, and really we wanted to achieve it by also being a bit frugal in terms of our investment. We've already gone through this, so being able to um, kind of reuse some of the mental models and knowledge that we had and implement it as quickly as possible was really advantageous. So we just jumped right to SOC 2 Type 2, and went from there. And it still took us, basically a year just to do that kind of a bit fast tracked. So it's really something that, you want to be thinking about, like, where do I want to be in 12 to 18 months from now? Um, so it's a long play for sure. What tools did we use to help implement SOC 2?
We knew that this time around we didn't want to build and write spreadsheets from scratch, right? Like there was a lot of things that we wanted to fast track. We didn't have time for that, and there's a lot of new tools around that can facilitate that work these days. So we looked into Drata and Secure Frame and Vanta, and ultimately decided to go with Vanta for many reasons. The first one is just the pure quality of the product. We felt like Vanta was the easiest way to integrate with our own stack, So the beauty of these tools these days is that you connect your infrastructure to that, and they have like continuously checking to see if everything is well. If they are not like, we're not collecting and taking screenshots once and then 2 hours later it's already outdated, not even 2 weeks. Like that's how fast things change, right? They are constantly monitoring and making sure that everything's looking good. So we really like Vanta because of that. Also because of the founder, we know the history of Christina and everything that she has accomplished over there. So we were very inspired by that, and the fact that they are also an Y Combinator company. As a YC company, we want to support this ecosystem, so we decided to go with that, and yeah, it's been serving us really well so far. Um, we have like all these Slack integrations that are notifying us whenever we need to change stuff. So yeah, it's pretty good so far.
This automation is really helpful, obviously, to uh, just speed things up and simplify. But there's one specific thing that I remember doing a lot when I was doing it manually, and it's like, uh, as a person in operations, I'm not in the code, I'm not managing the repos, I'm not doing the technical controls, right? But I'm needing to monitor to make sure that if we stop doing those things, then I can inform the engineers and they can fix it, right? And by monitoring that automatically, it removes that double work of like some one team monitoring and then sharing that information with another team and then that team implementing and telling the other team and the other team checking, yes, it's right. And then, okay, cool, great. And then in 1 month doing the same thing and every month doing that same process. So by it just being like handled on a programmatic level, then everyone has access to the results and whoever needs to implement the fix can have access to that right away at the moment that it's not compliant. And so then it just speeds up the feedback loop so much.
No more spreadsheets, man.
No, no, I'm done. I love, don't get me wrong, I love spreadsheets, but not for this.
So, Johnny, how was the process of engaging with auditors? Like, how was that whole thing? Like, okay, you've been tracking all these controls, you've been monitoring and making sure it's all looking good, but now you're engaging with these people. How does that work?
Yeah, I was very caught off guard this round, to be honest, because last time I went through this process, from the first audit to every renewal every year, we would plan a week where the auditors would come into the office and then we'd put them in a meeting room and the whole day we're in there together like I shared before and we're screen sharing and sending screenshots and the weeks prior we're gathering all these screenshots and data in documents and it's just a very intense like I remember uh, like not allowing people to go on PTO around that time because we needed to all be available to respond to things. Um, and this time we like started the audit, the we finalized the audit. They're going through, they're reviewing everything, and then it was like silence. Like I've never met the auditors in real life. They're just looking at everything in Vanta, and then there was one question they had. We sent over one piece of evidence. Other than that, we got the final audit, and everything was already done, just naturally as we walked through the process in Banta. So it's just night and day, being able to do the work as it comes, and then have it already done and pre-packaged for the auditors, so that when they're reviewing, we can be focused on the rest of the work we need to do. Um, so it was great, and we worked with Advantage partners. They were so easy to work with, like very, very helpful on the clarifications they needed, and fast, like getting through the review quickly, and they were great partners for that. Zeno, was there any surprises along the way that you found?
Yeah, I feel like we started this process thinking, oh, we need that checkbox, and we just need to go through SOC 2 to have that seal to put that on our website, and then nice, now we can close deals. So that's great. And throughout that process, we understood that it's definitely not about that. It's about helping you establish that security first culture and learning that SOC 2 is not a silver bullet. Honestly, like we had some incidents around January and February, and we kind of like we're looking at all of the work that we were doing prepping for SOC 2 and thinking, wow, like that actually didn't help us prevent these incidents from happening. And that's the reality. It's never going to be. And it's not going to be a penetration test that's going to save you from an incident too. Like there's so many different variables. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Like that means that you should take what that brings to the table and make sure you get the most out of it. So I wouldn't say there were any surprises necessarily. It was more like a realization that SOC 2 is not a silver bullet, and that you also have to keep the momentum going, right? We said that it took a year for a team that has already went through this before to get it done. So you got to keep pushing because it's very easy for these multi-month projects to just, be forgotten and not worked on. So yeah, it was definitely a realization of, hey, you cannot drop the ball. You've got to keep the momentum going. And SOC 2 is not a silver bullet.
That's something we're realizing or being reminded of in security in general. Even
Yeah.
talking to like our partners for penetration testing and this kind of thing. And uh, there was one point we went to them and like do the biggest scan that you can and cover everything so that we can just be done. Like we can
Mm-hmm.
just know that there's no vulnerabilities that can be
Mm-hmm.
found, right? And their response was like, no, regardless of how big the scan is or the audit is, there's always going to be new vulnerabilities. Partly because you're going to keep releasing, shipping new code and keep putting new things out. And so actually the consistent nurturing and maintaining of it is the thing that's protective. And that's the part that's so helpful about a SOC 2 or some of these audits is that we've now committed that from now on we have to keep thinking about security. We have to keep
Yep.
thinking about controls and keep thinking about these things. And so it just sets our mind on that, and we're kind of mandated to not forget about it. And just that alone, regardless of the specific things that it makes us do, just that mindset shift is super powerful for just the overall safety of the organization and the product and that kind of thing.
Yeah, if you're looking at SOC 2 as a short-term play to close some customers, you're in for a big surprise. It's way more than that, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, Johnny, now that Resend is SOC 2 Type 2 compliant, where can people find these reports in case they want to check it out? Is this available somewhere?
Yeah, on the settings page on your recent account, there's a documents tab where you can download the latest pen test, the SOC 2 report, and we'll keep growing this list of documents that are helpful to know, you know, uh, how these kind of internal operations of Resend work. Are we keeping up with the things we're committing to? We want to be an open book about those things. So feel free to check back there for future stuff. And our SOC 2 compliance covers the entire Resend product, all users, all plans. So you don't have to upgrade in order to get the coverage.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot, Johnny. This was great. We hope this was helpful, sharing our journey for this process. We hope that informs you to also uh, go on your own and make that happen. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. See ya.